My name is Isabel Moreau. I'm 36 years old, divorced, and for 8 years I worked as a senior mergers and acquisitions analyst at Sterling Capital Advisors in Boston, an investment banking firm specializing in mid-market corporate acquisitions. M&A work is intense and detail-oriented. You're analyzing companies worth tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, looking for hidden problems that could destroy value. A single, overlooked liability can kill a deal or cost the acquiring company millions. I was exceptional at due diligence. I found problems other analysts missed. I'd killed 3 deals in my career by discovering issues that would have been disastrous for our clients. I'd saved Sterling's clients approximately $40 million by catching problems early. My boss was Jeffrey Palmer, Director of Mergers and Acquisitions. 49 years old, Harvard MBA, 20 years in investment banking. He was talented at client relationships and deal negotiation, but mediocre at the actual analytical work. That was fine. That's why he had analysts like me, to do the detailed work while he handled the high-level strategy and client management. We had a functional working relationship for years. I did thorough analysis. He presented findings to clients. Deals either proceeded or didn't based on our recommendations. Professional. Effective. The problem started 6 months ago when Sterling landed the Harrison Tech acquisition. Harrison Tech was a software company generating $30 million annually in revenue. TechVantage Corporation wanted to acquire them for $75 million. It was the biggest deal of the year for Sterling. Our fee would be $3 million. Jeffrey was lead director on the deal. I was assigned as senior analyst responsible for financial and operational due diligence. Jeffrey was excited. More than excited, he was obsessed. Isabel, this deal is career-defining. TechVantage's CEO has already hinted that after the acquisition closes, they'll need a VP of corporate development. That's me. That's great, Jeffrey. What's the timeline? Aggressive. We have 6 weeks for complete due diligence. Can you handle it? 6 weeks is tight for a company this size, but yes. Good, because this deal cannot fall apart. TechVantage is counting on us. I'm counting on you. That last sentence should have been a warning. I spent the next 5 weeks digging into Harrison Tech's financials, operations, legal history, contracts, everything. I worked 70-hour weeks reviewing documents, interviewing department heads, analyzing data. And I found problems. Week 2. Harrison's revenue growth was inflated. They were recognizing revenue from multi-year contracts up front instead of over time. Aggressive accounting that made growth look better than reality. Week 3. They had an ongoing lawsuit from a former partner claiming Harrison had stolen proprietary technology. The lawsuit had been filed 8 months earlier, but wasn't disclosed in initial documents. Potential liability, $15 to $20 million. Week 4. One of their major clients, representing 18% of annual revenue, had notified Harrison they wouldn't be renewing their contract. That information wasn't in the financial projections provided to TechVantage. Week 5. I discovered Harrison's founder had personally guaranteed a $3 million loan that would become due immediately upon change of ownership. That liability wasn't disclosed anywhere in the acquisition documents. I documented everything meticulously, every issue, every potential liability, every red flag. I scheduled a meeting with Jeffrey to review my findings before finalizing the due diligence report. We met in his office. I walked him through everything I'd found, showing supporting documentation for each issue. Jeffrey listened, face getting progressively more tense. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Isabel, these are significant concerns. Yes, individually, each one is problematic. Together, they're deal killers. TechVantage is paying $75 million based on projected revenue that's inflated. They're inheriting a major lawsuit, losing 18% of revenue immediately post-acquisition, and taking on $3 million in unexpected debt. The actual value of Harrison Tech is probably closer to $45 million, not $75. What are you recommending? That we advise TechVantage to either renegotiate at a substantially lower price or walk away entirely. This deal, as currently structured, is a bad acquisition. Jeffrey stood up and walked to his window, staring out for a long moment. Isabel, I understand your concerns, but I think you're being overly cautious. These issues are manageable. Jeffrey, there's a $20 million lawsuit, which Harrison's attorneys believe is without merit. The revenue recognition is aggressive but not illegal. The loan can be refinanced. The lost client is one account. Together, they represent massive undisclosed risk. Or they represent normal business complexity that you're catastrophizing. Isabel, every deal has issues. If we killed every acquisition because of concerns, we'd never close anything. This is different. Your job is to identify issues. My job is to evaluate their materiality and advise the client. I'm telling you, these issues are manageable. Revise your due diligence report to reflect that. I stared at him. You want me to downplay the problems? I want you to present them accurately without fear-mongering. Use language like moderate concern instead of significant liability. Focus on mitigation strategies. TechVantage needs to see that these are solvable issues, not deal breakers. Jeffrey, that's not accurate analysis. That's cutting her off, sharp and authoritative. That's proper framing. Revise the report. We're presenting to TechVantage in 3 days. Sickened, defeated, I left his office feeling sick. Jeffrey wasn't asking me to lie exactly, but he was asking me to minimize serious problems because he wanted his dream job. That night, I talked to Maria Santos, another analyst on my team. Maria, Jeffrey wants me to soften the due diligence findings. These are legitimate major problems, and he wants me to call them manageable concerns. Because the deal's huge, and he wants it to close. Isabel, what are you going to do? I don't know. If I refuse, he'll reassign the report and write it himself. If I do what he asks, I'm helping TechVantage walk into a bad acquisition. There's a third option. Write the report accurately. Let Jeffrey do what he wants with it, but keep your original version. If this blows up later, you'll have proof you identified the problems. It was good advice. I wrote 2 versions of the report, one with accurate risk assessment, one with Jeffrey's requested softened language. I kept the original version in my personal files with all supporting documentation. Jeffrey presented the softened version to TechVantage. The deal moved forward toward closing. Then came bonus season. Sterling Capital had a performance bonus structure. Analysts received bonuses based on deal volume and complexity. For a deal the size of Harrison Tech, my bonus should have been around $50,000. I'd worked brutal hours for 6 weeks, 70-hour weeks, skipped my daughter's school play, canceled a vacation. I'd earned that bonus. Jeffrey called me into his office 2 weeks before the Harrison deal was scheduled to close. Isabel, we need to discuss your bonus. Okay. The Harrison Tech deal is closing, which is excellent. However, I've been reviewing department costs, and I need to optimize our bonus pool allocation. I didn't like where this was going. What does that mean? Your expected bonus for Harrison was approximately $50,000. I'm adjusting that to $20,000. 20? Jeffrey, the standard bonus for a deal this size is $50,000 to $60,000. I did all the financial and operational due diligence, and I had to significantly revise your work because it was overly conservative and nearly killed the deal. Your initial analysis almost cost Sterling a $3 million fee and cost me a career opportunity. Lower pitch, dismissive, I'm frankly being generous, offering $20,000. Generous? I identified legitimate problems that you asked me to minimize. You identified normal business issues that you catastrophized because you lack deal experience. Your work wasn't worth the full bonus, Isabel. $20,000 is my final offer. Take it or take it up with HR and risk being reassigned to smaller deals. Describing her reaction, angry, controlled. I felt my face flush with anger. This is because I found problems you didn't want to acknowledge. This is because your work required substantial correction. We're done here. Shaken, furious, determined. I walked out of his office shaking. $30,000 stolen from me because I'd done my job correctly and he hadn't liked the results. I could report this to HR or senior management, but I knew how it would play out. Jeffrey would claim my analysis was flawed. It would be his word against mine, and he was a director while I was an analyst. But I still had my original due diligence report, the accurate one, the one showing every problem I'd found and Jeffrey had minimized. I made a decision. I reached out to Andrew Zhang, CEO of Harrison Tech, the company being acquired. We'd met several times during the due diligence process. I requested a private coffee meeting. We met at a neutral cafe 3 days before the merger was scheduled to close.
Isabel, what can I do for you?
Andrew, I need to tell you something about the acquisition, but I need you to understand I'm risking my career by doing this. His expression became serious. Go on. The due diligence report TechVantage received was incomplete. There are significant issues with your company's financial position and legal exposure that were downplayed in the final report because my director wanted the deal to close. What issues? I walked him through everything: the aggressive revenue recognition, the undisclosed lawsuit, the client that was leaving, the $3 million loan. Andrew's face went from concerned to angry. Why wasn't this in the due diligence report? It was in my original report. My director had me revise it to minimize the concerns. He wants this deal to close because he's been promised a VP position at TechVantage after acquisition. Do you have documentation? Yes, my original due diligence report with all supporting documents. I brought copies. I handed him a flash drive containing everything. Andrew reviewed the documents on his laptop for 20 minutes. His jaw tightened as he read. Finally, he looked up. Lizabelle, this changes everything. If TechVantage acquires my company based on inflated projections and undisclosed liabilities, it will destroy both companies. They'll overpay massively, inherit problems they're unprepared for, and likely sue us for fraud afterward. I know. Why are you telling me this? Because it's the right thing to do. And because Jeffrey Palmer canceled my $50,000 bonus for finding these problems in the first place. I won't let him profit from a deal built on incomplete information while punishing me for doing honest work. Andrew closed his laptop. I need to make some calls. Isabel, you may have just saved my company. Thank you. What are you going to do? Terminate the merger agreement. If TechVantage knew about these issues and proceeded anyway, that's their choice. But they don't know because Sterling's due diligence was deliberately incomplete. I won't be part of that. Jeffrey will know I'm the source. Probably. But I'll also be offering you a position, VP of Corporate Development at Harrison Tech. Triple your Sterling salary. You clearly have integrity and skill. I want you working for me, not Jeffrey Palmer. I left that meeting knowing I'd just ended Jeffrey's career-defining deal and destroyed his promised VP position. And I didn't feel guilty at all. Andrew terminated the merger agreement 48 hours later. He sent a detailed letter to TechVantage explaining why, citing the undisclosed liabilities and incomplete due diligence as fundamental breaches of the acquisition agreement. TechVantage was furious. They immediately contacted Sterling demanding explanation. Sterling's senior partners called an emergency meeting with Jeffrey and his team. I was included. The managing partner, Douglas Wright, led the meeting. Jeffrey, TechVantage just killed the Harrison Tech deal. They claim our due diligence was incomplete and failed to disclose major liabilities. Explain. Jeffrey's face was red. Their CEO got cold feet. This is buyer's remorse, not due diligence failure. They provided specifics: a $3 million undisclosed loan, a $20 million lawsuit, 18% revenue loss from a departing client, aggressive revenue recognition. They claim none of this was adequately disclosed in our report. Those issues were identified and evaluated. We determined they were manageable. Were they in the due diligence report? They were presented with appropriate context. Jeffrey, were the issues disclosed clearly or not? Silence. Maria spoke up. They were disclosed in Isabel's original report. Jeffrey had her revise it to minimize the concerns. Every head in the room turned to look at me. Douglas looked at Jeffrey. Is that true? Isabel's original analysis was overly conservative. I made appropriate editorial decisions. Do you have your original report? Yes. Send it to me. Now. I pulled out my laptop and emailed him the original due diligence report and all supporting documentation. Douglas read it on his tablet for 10 minutes. The room was completely silent. Finally, he looked up at Jeffrey. Your revised report removed nearly every significant risk flag. You turned serious undisclosed liability into moderate concern requiring monitoring. You presented a $20 million lawsuit as a potential minor legal matter. I evaluated the materiality. You compromised our due diligence integrity to close a deal. Jeffrey, you're suspended effective immediately, pending a full investigation. Leave the building. Jeffrey's face went from red to white. Douglas, you can't. I can and I am. You nearly cost TechVantage tens of millions through incomplete due diligence. You compromised Sterling's reputation. Get out. Jeffrey stood, looked at me with pure hatred, grabbed his coat, and left. Douglas turned to me. Isabel, did you provide the original report to Harrison Tech's CEO? Yes. Why? Because Jeffrey canceled my performance bonus for finding problems he didn't want to acknowledge. I refused to let him profit from a flawed deal while being punished for honest work. Douglas was quiet for a moment. That was a massive professional risk. I know. It was also the right thing to do. You prevented a disastrous acquisition and protected Sterling from potential liability. Jeffrey's actions could have led to malpractice claims. Your integrity prevented that. He paused. Lower pitch, official. I'm promoting you to Director of Due Diligence. You'll oversee all analysts and report directly to me. You'll also receive Jeffrey's bonus allocation for this quarter, $80,000, plus your original $50,000 for the Harrison work, $130,000 total. I couldn't speak. Curious. Additionally, I understand Harrison Tech has offered you a position? Yes, VP of Corporate Development. What are they offering? Triple my current salary, equity stake, full authority over M&A strategy. Take it, you've earned it. And Isabel? Thank you for having the courage to do the right thing, even when it cost you. The investigation concluded 2 weeks later. Jeffrey was terminated for cause. Sterling issued a formal apology to TechVantage and Harrison Tech for the compromised due diligence. TechVantage sued Sterling for $3 million, their wasted advisory fees. Sterling settled for $2 million. Jeffrey's promised VP position at TechVantage evaporated. His reputation in the industry was destroyed. Last I heard, he's working at a small boutique firm in Chicago, making a fraction of his Sterling salary. I started at Harrison Tech as VP of Corporate Development. Andrew gave me complete authority over M&A strategy, a team of 6 analysts, and equity worth approximately $2 million. 6 months later, I led Harrison through a successful acquisition of a competitor, proper due diligence, full disclosure of risks, clean deal that added real value. Andrew promoted me to Chief Strategy Officer. 2 years later, Harrison Tech went public. My equity stake is now worth approximately $12 million. 3 years after leaving Sterling, I'm Chief Strategy Officer at a publicly traded company worth $300 million. I oversee all M&A activity, strategic planning, and corporate development. My salary is 4 times what I made at Sterling. My equity stake is worth $12 million and growing. I've led 6 successful acquisitions, all with thorough, honest due diligence. More importantly, I've built a reputation as someone who tells the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Companies seek us out specifically because they know our due diligence is thorough and honest. Maria left Sterling 6 months after I did. She's now my Director of Acquisitions at Harrison Tech. We've built a team that does M&A work the right way, finding problems early, disclosing risks honestly, walking away from bad deals. Andrew Zhang credits me with saving his company. Isabel, If that TechVantage acquisition had closed with all those undisclosed problems, both companies would have been destroyed. You had the courage to tell the truth when it mattered. As for Jeffrey, his career never recovered. The industry is small and word spreads fast. Everyone knows he compromised due diligence integrity for a deal fee and personal career advancement. He tried reaching out to me once. Email subject line, "Conversation?" I deleted it without reading. Last month, I spoke at an M&A industry conference about due diligence integrity. During Q&A, someone asked, "Have you ever faced pressure to minimize risks in a due diligence report?" Yes, once. I refused. The director who pressured me canceled my bonus as punishment. So I provided the accurate risk assessment to the target company's CEO, which killed the deal. The director was fired. I was promoted and later recruited by the target company. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you in the short term, but pays off massively in the long term. The audience applauded. Several people approached me afterward saying they'd faced similar situations and asking how I'd had the courage to speak up. Document everything, I told them. Keep accurate records, and remember that your integrity is worth more than any single bonus or deal. Jeffrey Palmer canceled my $50,000 bonus because I found problems he didn't want to acknowledge. He thought punishing me would teach me to keep my mouth shut and go along with incomplete due diligence. Instead, it motivated me to blow up his $75 million deal and destroy his career. His bonus decision cost him everything. It gave me everything. People ask if I regret how things played out, if I feel bad about ending Jeffrey's career. I don't. Jeffrey didn't get fired because I was vindictive. He got fired because he compromised professional integrity for personal gain. He deliberately minimized serious risks in a due diligence report because he wanted a deal to close and a job offer to come through. That's not just bad judgment, that's professional malpractice. The $50,000 bonus cancellation wasn't the reason I went to Andrew Zhang. It was the catalyst. It showed me that Jeffrey cared more about his career advancement than honest work. It proved he'd punish integrity and reward compliance. I couldn't let that stand. Here's what I learned. Your work has to mean something beyond your paycheck. Due diligence isn't just checking boxes. It's protecting people from making disastrous decisions with millions of dollars. When Jeffrey asked me to minimize risks, he wasn't asking for better framing. He was asking me to help mislead a client. That crossed a line I couldn't accept. I also learned that doing the right thing is terrifying but worthwhile. Going to Andrew Zhang meant risking my career. Jeffrey could have convinced Sterling I was the problem. I could have been fired, blacklisted in the industry, lost everything. Instead, standing up for integrity gave me a career better than anything I could have built by going along with Jeffrey's compromised due diligence. Jeffrey thought he was clever. Close the deal, get his dream job, punish the analyst who'd been difficult by finding too many problems. Win-win for him. He didn't account for the possibility that I'd refuse to let him profit from flawed work while punishing me for doing honest analysis. That oversight cost him $3 million in deal fees, his director position, his promised VP job, and his reputation. My canceled $50,000 bonus turned into $130,000 immediately, then into a VP position, then into Chief Strategy Officer with $12 million in equity. Jeffrey tried to steal $50,000 from me. I ended up costing him his entire career. That's not revenge. That's proportional consequences. Sometimes the best way to fight back isn't to get angry. It's to document everything. Tell the truth at exactly the right time, and let the other person's actions destroy them. Jeffrey Palmer taught me that lesson expensively.